morning, I'm Angelo Castro III.
I'm Angela, and we are the Castros.
We bring you the news.
And the views that make you think.
Sometimes we agree.
Sometimes we don't.
This is News and Views.
And here are today's headlines.
Mamamayang Liberal Party List Representative-elect Laila de Lima says the delay in the impeachment case against Vice President Sara Duterte violates the Constitution. Meanwhile, some House leaders deny claims that Speaker Martin Romualdez instructed them to pursue the Vice President's impeachment.
A 200 peso wage hike may offer relief to struggling workers, but some stakeholders ask, can the economy afford it?
Health officials are warning against deadly rabies and surging dengue cases, especially this rainy season.
Senior high school students across hundreds of schools will begin the 2025-2026 academic year under a new curriculum. And first in the news, House leaders have firmly rejected claims that Speaker Martin Romualdez directed them to pursue the impeachment of Vice President Sara Duterte. House Deputy Majority Leader Paulo Ortega clarified that no such directive came from the Speaker. He explained that many lawmakers independently reviewed the congressional hearings and decided to support impeachment based on their own judgment. Assistant Majority Leader Jay Conggun echoed this sentiment, emphasizing that while members respect Romualdez's leadership, they are also not blindly following his instructions. Ortega also reminded everyone that all lawmakers, regardless of their leaders, must adhere to the Constitution, which assigns the Senate the role of trying impeachment cases. He expressed confidence that the Senate will carry out this duty when it votes on June 11.
Health officials warn of the deadly risks of rabies and the surge in dengue cases this rainy season. Here's the report.
Even at late hours, long lines form in Quezon City's Batasan Hills for free anti-rabies vaccinations this Thursday. Many stayed overnight to secure a spot, including Anne, who was scratched by a cat. She has been waiting since Wednesday afternoon.
Hindi, booster ko na rin po kasi mahirap na. Lagi ako sa rescue. Laging may kalmot, laging hindi maiwasan, makagat. Kaya nagpapakuna na para sigurado.
Vaccination is crucial because rabies is deadly. Last year, the Philippines logged 426 rabies cases. Infections spread through bites or scratches from infected animals. Symptoms can take weeks or months to appear, including fever, weakness, and swelling of the wound. It can also cause fear of water and air, confusion and paralysis as the virus targets the brain. If bitten or scratched, immediately wash the wound with soap and water and seek medical help at the nearest health center or animal bite clinic. The health department assures sufficient supplies of human anti-rabies vaccines nationwide.
Wala tayong decline, hindi bumibili yung mga LGU. The LGUs have to buy, so they end up going to the DOH.
The DOH also urges pet owners to vaccinate their dogs and cats and avoid stray animals. With less than 2 weeks before school reopens, volunteers cleaned Esteban Abada Elementary School in Quezon City early Thursday. Empty tires and plant pots that can breed mosquitoes were turned over. Insecticide-treated screens were installed on windows, and anti-dengue misting was conducted inside classrooms. All efforts aim to prevent dengue, a mosquito-borne virus disease. Dengue cases in Quezon City have tripled to over 5,000 since January, prompting the LGU to declare an outbreak last February. Nationwide, dengue cases are up 67% compared to last year, reaching over 110,000 as of May 10, with 437 deaths reported. Symptoms include fever, body pain, vomiting, nose and gum bleeding, blood in stool, and skin rash. When these appear, seek doctor immediately.
Yung akala natin yun nga po, simpleng trangkaso lang, pero baka dengue na po ito. Pwede po itong mauwi sa kamatayan if hindi po natin maaagapan.
Dengue cases dropped during the summer months, but the DOH expects cases to rise again this rainy season. The department also reiterates the 4S strategy: search and destroy mosquito breeding sites, secure self-protection, seek early consultation, and support fogging and spraying. Other seasonal diseases under close monitoring include leptospirosis and flu. For News 5, JC Cosico, we are One News.
Now, to talk more about that report, we have Dr. Erwin Benedicto. He's the chairman of the Department of Microbiology and Parasitology at the University of Perpetual Health, DALTA. Doc, welcome to News and Views. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, and it's my pleasure.
And Doc, let's talk about this rise in cases of rabies, no? Particularly when you get a bite, dog or cat, or a scratch. How long after that should you get a vaccine?
Well, immediately right after you have developed or you have been bitten by either a cat or a dog, you should seek consult. We should not delay that kind of sick consultation because within 20 to 90 days, there will be signs and symptoms that will be developed for rabies. In case that kind of bite is bitten by a rabid dog or cat.
So Doc, I'd like to clarify, no? For example, nakagat ka, tapos for some reason hindi ka naka-vaccine, pero after a 20 to 90 day period, yung house pet mo na kumagat o kumalmot sa'yo, medyo okay naman pala. What should happen next?
Well, still you need to consult because it's better to have a post-exposure prophylaxis because we don't know even whether there is a virus or not. And please take note, even after 1 year, rabies may occur to the individual because the period by which rabies manifestation could occur will depend on the site where you are bitten. So kung malayo siya sa spinal cord, kasi this is a slow-growing virus, it may take time for the manifestation to occur.
Yun nga po yung tatanong ko, can you explain to us the science behind it? Bakit minsan sa mga report po na nakikita namin after na makagat sila ng aso, yung manifestation nga ng kanilang symptoms ay umaabot pa ng a year. And usually po, doon po sa mga animal bite centers, meron po silang parang, aside dun sa mga injection na binibigay, meron din po silang parang yung pampabagal daw po ng pag-akyat sa brain ng rabies if ever. Can you explain that to us po?
So, ang binibigay after the exposure to a bitten bite or a dog or cat is that they give immunoglobulin. So, this is a form of antibody that will directly fight the virus which is called the rabies virus. At the same time, yung bakuna natin is for you to develop future antibodies that will fight for that particular rabies virus.
Doc, I'd like to...
Yes. So they give both active and passive immunization.
Right.
But yung sinasabi niyong active and passive, that's for a bite. Paano pag scratch, Doc?
Well, regardless scratch or bite, tandaan natin na ang cause or the reason why may rabies is dahil baka na-contaminate siya ng laway na may rabies virus.
Okay, Doc,
Yes.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Anything that will have an injury and will have the opportunity na malawayan yung injury na to at may rabies virus, there is an opportunity for a rabies to occur to an individual.
Yun. Doc, baka you can explain to us, no? Kasi iba-iba yung presyo kasi ng vaccine. Sabi nila, mas mura daw pag ID ang binibigay sa'yo. It's because mas mabilis daw ang absorption compared sa IM na karamihan daw sa hospital. Could you explain that to us, Doc?
Well, pag sinabi natin immunoglobulin, itong tinatawag natin na passive immunization. Ito yung binibigay natin na antibody to initially protect the individual from the rabies. Ang passive vaccination, ito yung active vaccination, itong binibigay natin na IM. So both of these are given to the individuals who after being bitten by the cat or dog.
Doc, siguro lang po para sa ating viewers din, just to be clear about it, kung halimbawa naman po yung animal na accidentally naka-scratch or nakakagat sa kanila at house pet nila ito, pero unfortunately hindi rin ito nakapagpa-vaccine, importante makapagpa-vaccine pa rin yung nakagat, yung owner. Tama po?
Yes, that's correct. Actually, we have a law na may anti-rabies law tayo which is in 27. The target is number 1, to have mass vaccination to to all dogs.
Right.
And for those who are for those who are bitten by the cat or dog, they should seek consult. Kaya may mga animal bite center tayo na magbigay ng mga bakuna para sa mga pasyente ito.
Okay. All right, taking this opportunity na rin, Doc, to ask you regarding our dengue cases right now sa ating bansa. Sabi nga nila, it's rising already. Can you give us po a full picture po of what can a certain individual expect from a bite po, the symptoms po nila na mararamdaman?
Okay. Just like rabies, dengue is caused by a virus, and that particular virus is being carried by the mosquito. So the mosquito is the one carries the virus that causes the dengue. Ang unang simptoma ng dengue is usually just like an ordinary flu. So fever, myalgia, or joint pains. Pero on the first week, may ma-observe tayo na retroorbital pain, which is pain at the back of the what we call eyes, severe headache, and some rashes. Regardless whether you feel that or not, seek consult. Because one of the strategies of the Department of Health is seek early consult. Because this is the only way for us to prevent any complication from dengue.
But Doc, for somebody, for example, nagka-fever, minsan ayaw magpa-check up ng iba, sabihin nila lagnat lang kasi may mga cost implications. Pero how would you know, ano yung threshold ng isang tao? Uy, baka dengue na ako. What differentiates a regular flu from the dengue?
Actually, we could not even differentiate. That's why our campaign is seek early consultation. We will only know sa bahay natin na dengue, baka magkaroon na siya ng bleeding. And we don't want that to happen. So the campaign is we should not be complacent. Nowadays, there are a lot of reasons for fever to occur. That's why we need medical consult.
So day 1 pala, Doc, ng fever, pa-check na kaagad kung dengue or not?
Yes, yes. It's better rather than we have a lot of complication later.
Well, kasi dati, di ba sinasabi, after 3 days, check mo muna kung may rashes. Pero ngayon, importante, first day pa lang, check na.
Yes, yes. And in fact, there are many screening right now that will tell us whether it's dengue or that. So there are ways by which we can be able to detect that. Just seek your doctor.
Doc, I'd like to ask, how many times can you get dengue? Kasi ako, in particular, I've had dengue 3 times already. How many times? Tsaka ano yung mga klaseng dengue meron?
Yes, there are 4 serotypes of dengue. 4 types. So if you have been exposed to one serotype of dengue, there are 3 other types of serotypes of dengue to which you still can have dengue.
Okay, so hindi ka na immune. Mali yung lumalabas na info na nagka-dengue ka na, hindi ka na pwede magka-dengue.
Correct.
Okay, going back po dun sa rabies, kasi nakakuha po ako ng online question po mula sa ating viewer, asking kasi nakikita po nila yung mga sintomas daw po ng rabies sa isang tao. Totoo daw po ba na, just to clear it po, no, coming from you, totoo daw po ba na irreversible ito?
Yes, the fatality rate is 100%. Once na may symptoma ka ng rabies, sorry to say, usually you cannot survive, and most or all the patients that I have seen, all of them die.
Alright, sige. On that note, maraming salamat po sa inyong pagpapaalala sa amin, Doc, and hopefully we can talk to you again soon. And happy weekend po sa inyo, Dr. Erwin Benedicto, Chairman of the Department of Microbiology and Parasitology at the University of Perpetual Health, Dalta.
Thank you.
In other news, the Senate remains divided on whether to convene as an impeachment court for Vice President Sara Duterte just days before Congress adjourns. Mobile journalist Mary Monreyes reports.
A consensus is yet to be made whether or not to convene as the impeachment court, putting on trial VP Sara Duterte. Senator Amy Marcos says this on a press conference yesterday, only less than 5 days before the Senate adjourns and the 19th Congress ends. According to her, there were more than 3 drafts made to dismiss the impeachment trial against the Vice President, confirming she is helping Senator Bato de la Rosa in drafting such. In response to critics mentioning the Senate's delays with this proceeding, Marcos questions back to the Congress its lack of urgency in endorsing the impeachment complaints filed as early as December last year.
Para sa akin, wala na talagang panahon para sa trial. dapat ibasura na. Kung gusto talaga ng House of Representatives, wala namang problema. Pwede silang magpila ulit, subject to the one-year ban.
Marcos speculates that not just those from the Duterte bloc are making moves to dismiss the trial, but also those of the administration. While she believes it's no longer possible to proceed with the impeachment with the 19th Congress closing, she says there are still other ways to seek for the accountability of Duterte, such as the other petitions filed in the Supreme Court against her.
Disallowance regarding the confidential funds, nakatenga pa rin yan. On appeal before COA Commission, may 3 petisyon tungkol sa confidential funds sa Supreme Court. Tapos may COA proceeding sa 2023 confidential funds about OVP, pati na rin ang DepEd. So, hindi kumbaga makakaligtas kung may anomalya man. Wala naman lusutan.
During a plenary session, Senate Minority Leader Coco Pimentel says that dismissing the impeachment case without pursuing a trial is violative of the Constitution. The articles of the impeachment should be presented, and the accused must be given the opportunity to defend themselves. Senate Majority Leader J.V. Ejercito shares the same frustration, however notes that they are duty-bound to proceed.
So it doesn't mean that kung pabor ka na matuloy yan, ay for conviction ka na or non-conviction. I think whether like it will be the next Congress already, no, that will already serve as senator judges. One thing is for sure, we are duty bound, as I mentioned, to go through it. No? So matutuloy yan.
On June 11, the articles of impeachment will be presented in the Senate. On this day, the convening of the impeachment court might take place, as well as the oath-taking of the senator judges, the finalization of impeachment rules, and the issuance of summons to the accused. But it would only be until July, when the 20th Congress opens, that the impeachment case will once again roll out in the legislative body. Mobile journalist Mary Monreyes, We Are One News.
Meanwhile, mamamayang Liberal Party List Representative-elect Laila De Lima criticized the Senate for delaying action on the impeachment case against Vice President Sara Duterte. De Lima stressed that the delay is already in violation of the Constitution. She added that she finds no procedural infirmity in the impeachment complaint endorsed by the House of Representatives. De Lima also said there is a strong basis for the complaint. Meanwhile, she clarified she is not officially a House prosecutor yet.
Napakahalaga po nito because we're talking here about accountability, pananagot, na kung babasahin nyo yung verified complaint, lalo na yung articles of impeachment na na-transmit na sa Senado, at kahit basahin nyo rin po yung mga nandun sa first 3 complaints filed by various groups and endorsed by members of the House of Representatives, very substantive grounds, and the stated grounds are those recognized under the Constitution.
Yung isa kasing ina-argue ng legal team ni VP Sara is 4 na impeachment complaint, yung pang-4 ang na-transmit. So dapat, if it's the 4th, dapat may 1-year ban na in effect. But ang sabi ng ibang constitutionalists and lawyers, when you mean a 1-year ban, it pertains to a dismissed impeachment complaint sa Congress. So the first 3 were never dismissed. Sabay-sabay lang siyang na-transmit. Hindi siya na-refer sa Committee on Justice at na-dismiss sa Committee on Justice. It's just that na-consolidate yung 4th, several impeachment complaints na-consolidate sa 4th, and was already approved sa plenary. So none of them were dismissed. In effect daw, walang na trigger na 1-year ban. So yan ang lininaw ng sagot ng ibang mga constitutionalists or lawyers.
Yeah, but speaking of constitutionalists and lawyers, talagang yung iba nahahati yung kanilang pananaw dito base din dun sa sinasabi nila tungkol nga dito sa impeachment complaint. Pero sinasabi nga ni Senator Ping Lacson na uupo na rin sa 20th Congress na even siya, kahit hindi pa siya nakaupo ngayon 19th Congress, naka-receive siya ng resolution to dismiss the impeachment complaint, ay hindi daw po pwedeng i-dismiss ang isang impeachment complaint hanggat hindi nang ko-convene ang Senate bilang impeachment court. Yeah. So, yun ang sinasabi niya.
Baka sinasabi kasi yung senators ang hati, pero constitutionalists are all saying one
yeah,
truth.
Yeah.
They're all saying one
and
truth.
even yung mga UP, sa UP, di ba yung yung mga faculty doon, UP Law, naglabas sila ng...
College of Law.
Yes, UP College of Law, naglabas sila ng statement saying na, asikasuhin niyo na itong impeachment, di ba? Kasi nasa constitution natin nakalagay doon, forthwith.
Saka ni Attorney Monsod, di ba? It is not the duty of the Senate to dismiss a transmittal of an impeachment complaint, it is your duty to convene into a court. Kasi baka ang dinadahilan mo technicality, have the Supreme Court resolve this, pero the Supreme Court, the Senate, as an institution, should convene into a impeachment court. Ngayon, whether or not na pwedeng tumawid sa 20th Congress, that's another matter altogether. Basta, when you receive it, kung convene na kayo. Kung hindi nyo matapos yung trial o alanganin, then another problem arises. But it is still your duty to convene into a
so what I was
court.
trying to say kanina na nahahati, but yung ibang mga lawyers, what I mean, no? Yung mga lawyers, tulad na lang ni Senator Francis Tolentino, di ba? Siya, naniniwala siya na sinasabi nga niya na siya ay, of course, maalam din sa batas, naniniwala siya na hindi na daw pwede i-continue. Diba? Yung sa 19th Congress to 20th Congress, yung pagdinig ng impeachment case ni Vice President Sara Duterte. But of course, yung mga ibang legal luminaries, yung ibang mga lawyers, mga constitutional experts din, nagsasabi din sila na pwede because yung sinasabi sa Constitution na kapag ang yung lahat ng mga legislative agenda na natapos sa isang Congress at hindi pala na ipasa yun, i-refile yun sa next Congress. So, they're talking about a legislative agenda, not itong as an impeachment court. Yun yung kanilang pino-point out doon.
So, balik na lang tayo sa basic argument. The framers of the Constitution have said, and they're the ones who drafted the 1987 Constitution. Napakasimple. Sila ang nag-draft, sila nakakaintindi kung anong sinulat nila, sila nakakaintindi kung anong intent nila when they drafted the Constitution, especially Article 11. Si Attorney Monsod said that, several other justices na retired have said that. These are the ones who have interpreted the law, who drafted the Constitution, and they know the intent. The intent of the Constitution is to protect the people. How do you protect the people? If a complaint against an official comes, the only recourse is through a trial. Kung ngayon, walang usapan naman to kung Congress mismo, they denied the complaint, may trigger tayo ng 1 year ban. Problema, nasa Senate.
Nasa Senate ang
so whether
bola
mahina yung kiniklaim ni Senator Amy Marcos, mahina yung mga, hindi yun madidetermine through a dismissal resolution. Take it to trial, dun nyo ipakita, that the defense should show, dun mo ipakita na mahina ang evidence, then you acquit. But you have to go to trial. Doesn't matter whether you acquit or you're guilty, you have to go to trial.
Even I heard also sa one of our reports here, isa si Senator J.V. Ejercito saying na not necessarily for conviction siya, pero it's their constitutional mandate as senators or yung mga judges sa impeachment trial na dinggin itong impeachment na to dahil it's their constitutional duty. Whether makonvict or not, importante makonvict. Even yung ibang mga supporters ng VP Sara, ni VP Sara, sila din nagsasabi na, sige, ituloy nyo na impeachment trial. Kasi sabi niya, para makita natin yung mga, kung talaga bang lalabas yung ebidensya na sinasabi nyo, diba? Yun. And as to the prosecution panel naman, yun nga, kanina sinabi ko dun sa report na hindi pa naman talaga officially House Prosecutor yet si Senator Laila De Lima o Congresswoman-elect Laila De Lima dahil sa 20th Congress pa siya di ba? After pa niya manumpa. Kasi if you all know, for context, siya po ay naimbitahan together with Congressman o elect Chal Jokno na maging parte ng House Prosecution Panel.
But their role will only be triggered pag convene ng 20th Congress.
Alright, we'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. Good morning. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. Business groups warn that the proposed 200 peso daily wage hike could hurt the economy. Malacanang says it will carefully study the impact before making any decision. Here's a report.
Joanna Lapaday can't hold back tears as she tells us how she stretches her 6,000 peso take-home pay every 15th and 30th of the month. She is a single mom of 4 children, working as security guard for a bakery in Quezon City. Food is where most of her pay goes to.
Mas priority talaga pagkain kasi konsumo yan araw-araw Di ba pag walang pagkain, manghihina ang tao. Lalo na mga anak mo laging gutom, di ba? Kailangan lagi may pagkain.
But most of the time, she still can't make ends meet. If the wage hike comes to pass, the current 645 peso minimum wage would go up to 845 pesos. This also means the monthly income of minimum wage earners would be augmented by at least 4,400 pesos. All contractual, subcontractual, agricultural, or non-agricultural workers will also be covered by the increase. In February last year, the Senate also approved a similar bill with a daily minimum wage hike of 100 pesos. Senator Mig Zubiri, author of the wage bill in the upper chamber, sees no problem adopting the House's version, but he hopes amendments can be immediately tackled in the BICAM before sessions adjourn again. Senator J.V. Ejercito is also all for the wage hike, but is thinking of its impact on businesses.
We have to strike a balance always. We have to make sure also that yung business will be able to survive. Baka kasi masyado mabigat sa iba yan, especially for the small and medium scale businesses.
Something the Employers Confederation of the Philippines, or ECOP, is worried about.
Pinakamababa minimum wage natin sa Pilipinas, pang-attract natin na investment. Ngayon, pinakamataas tayo din sa region. Tapos dadagdagan mo pa yan, sino pa mag-i-invest sa atin?
The Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry has reservations as well, saying the 200 peso wage hike has effects on the economy, on prices of goods and services, on workers in the informal sector who account for about half of the population, and on micro and small traders that comprise 96% of the total enterprises in the country. The Makati Business Club meantime emphasized how small business owners would have to raise costs from 31 to 44% just to accommodate the wage hike. Malacanang is taking note of all these concerns.
We will look at the economic implications of this and how to resolve this with the opinion of the wage boards, since the wage boards are also the creations of the Congress. So nais po ng Pangulo na maibigay kung ano po ang makakabuti sa mga manggagawang Pilipino. Titignan ng lahat ng aspeto at ang concerns ng lahat ng stakeholders.
For News 5, Gio Robles, we are One News.
Alright, just to be clear, this is just napasa
sa Senate.
sa Congress,
sa Congress.
Sa House of Representatives.
Alam mo,
dadaan pa yun sa Senate. Kung i-adapt nila, maaaring 200 nga. Pero kasi prior to this, meron din namang ipinapasa ang Senate na 100 pesos. So, if they're willing, magbabaycam sila para pag-usapan kung mag-meet sila halfway or adapt or not.
Ang problema sa across the board kasi sa studies, whether it's 100 or 200 across the board, ang mangyayari dito is you're stimulating the resurgence of imports. So in other words, kung magtataas ka ng sweldo, tatamaan dito mga minimum wage earners. So you have manufacturing, yung mga industry, diba? You have entry level sa mga, let's say, mga mall workers. When you do that, these companies will be forced to increase production, to increase prices, diba, of their goods. When you increase prices of their goods, na-mitigate mo lang yung sweldo nila. So people will look now to imports. Where can you buy imports? Access mo yung import is through online selling. Diba? So parang tinanggalan mo ng Filipino product, you made it more expensive.
So just to be clear lang also, dun sa 200, if ever yan ay pumasa, ang madadagdag sa sweldo ng isang manggagawa ay 4,400 per month. Pero sabi nga nila, it will boost economic spending. Pero yun nga, tulad ng sabi mo, yung mga higher operational costs, isa yan sa nakikita nila, and unemployment risk. So tingnan natin kung ano mangyayari. But this time around, let's continue with our news. Okay, sino ba? Okay. A new curriculum will welcome senior high school students across hundreds of schools this coming academic year 2025 to 2026. Here's a report.
The Department of Education is in full preparation for the upcoming school year. Major changes are also being introduced in the curriculum to better equip students for the workforce. One of the key reforms includes integrating digital literacy and AI literacy into the curriculum.
Kasi nagbabago nga yung requirements ng mga trabaho, ng mga skills na kinakailangan para magkaroon ng trabaho. So kami sa DepEd, dapat nagbabago rin yung training at saka yung curriculum namin.
Education Secretary Sonny Angara clarified this is not a full restructuring, but an update to the Philippine Qualifications Framework to expand options for senior high graduates.
Konting dagdag, konting reforma, konting pagbago sa hugis, pero hindi naman yung restructure kasi parang binabago mo lahat.
In the senior high school curriculum, the number of required subjects will drop from 33 to just 5. Students will have the opportunity to choose their additional subjects based on their interests and career plans. Non-core subjects like sports and philosophy will become electives and will no longer be mandatory.
Well, yung features nung reform namin ng senior high school, yung mas konti na yung subjects. Dahil ngayon 33 subjects, babawasan na natin yun. Ang i-require na lang natin sa mga bata, 5 subjects. Tapos yung karamihan doon, yung dagdag doon, yung bata na ang mamimili nung kanyang gusto. Depende sa kanyang plano sa buhay.
DepEd is also preparing for the annual Brigada Eskwela, calling on private sector and community partners to support the nationwide initiative in readying schools for opening day.
Well, next week, umpisa na tayo ng Brigada Eskwela, which naging tradition na po yan, kung saan nagsasama-sama ang mga komunidad, and no less than the President will lead us sa launch ng Brigada Eskwela.
The Education Department is also addressing traditional challenges, such as classroom shortages and lack of teachers. DepEd also plans to enhance remote learning by improving technology infrastructure so students in far-flung areas can access quality education.
Dahil yung iba, dapat ang napakaganda na ng estado ng teknolohiya kung patibayan natin sa mga komunidad yan. Yung bata sa Batanes, pwede niyang, kahit yung teacher niya nasa Sulu, di ba? Pwede pa rin niyang kausapin kung maganda yung teknolohiya natin, maganda yung technology infrastructure natin.
Now, to provide insights into the new senior high school curriculum, we have Teachers Dignity Coalition National Chairperson Benjo Basas joining us this morning via Zoom. Good morning, Benjo. Thanks for joining us again.
Yes, Benjo.
Yes, Miss Angela and Sir Angelo, magandang umaga po at sa mga taga-subaybay natin. Good morning po.
Benjo, I don't know if you saw the report, no? Ano ang reaction mo dito sa sinasabi ni Secretary Angara?
Medyo marami kasi yung topics na kanyang tinalakay, no? Pero diniinan yung etong tinatawag nila na strengthened senior high school curriculum, no, na magsisimula yung pilot run
Yes.
ngayong school year, no, come June 16, no, yung magsisimula na po yan sa 800 more than 800 schools po nationwide, no. Most of those schools are actually public schools, di ba? Kami naman po, no, ever since naman ang sinasabi naman po namin dito sa reforms, no, sa education sector, parang hindi naman ganun ka-urgent, no, yung sinasabi po na curriculum changes, di ba?
Yeah,
Kasi nagkaroon na tayo ng pagbabago na ilang ulit sa ating curriculum. In fact, yung pinakamalaki nga itong K-12 program natin, ito hindi lang curriculum, pati number of years ay binago natin, dinagdagan natin ng 2 taon, and yet after more than a decade, ay sinasabi natin ngayon na failure itong senior high school program natin, and yet ang solution po na inintroduce ang DepEd ngayon ay ito nga, yung sinasabi nila na strengthened senior high school curriculum, pero sige, pag nag-usap naman tayo dito, kami medyo pwede natin i-appreciate talaga naman po yung effort ng Department of Education dito, di ba? Itong ginawa na tracks, halimbawa, di ba, from 4 or 5 tracks, down to 2 tracks na lamang, academic and itong tech pro na tinatawag po natin, hindi natin din pwede, Sir Angelo, Miss Angela, na hindi ito basahin, na hindi natin kinukonsidera din, yung ibang mga panukalang batas, like of course we have the Education Pathways Act, proposal in the lower house na pumasa na sa 3rd reading, at ito bagong-bago, di ba, itong si Senator Jinggoy Estrada ay nagsumite ng kanyang panukala, na alisin yung senior high school program.
Pabor ba kayo doon?
Yes, ma'am.
Pabor ba kayo doon sa panukala ni Senator Jinggoy?
Yun nga po, that's why I'm laying the context po of this matter, kasi mukhang popular yung sinasabi ni Senator Jinggoy, di ba? Bakit ito popular? Kasi kitang-kita po ng ating mga kababayan that K-12 is a failure doon sa tatlo niyang pangunahing intention, which is employability, preparation for college, and global competitiveness. Mukhang yan yung nakita ng ating mga kababayan. So popular yung mga ganitong call. Pero hindi naman kami sasabihin na pabor ka agad rito, or hindi namin sabihin na ayaw namin ito, panukala na ito. Siguro this is a very opportune time for us for the legislators, the stakeholders and the public para pumasok po doon sa isang national discourse para pag-usapan ito. Nagpapasalamat kami sa panukala the act of proposing such, 'di ba?
Yeah.
Nagpapasalamat kami kasi mailalagay doon sa sentro ng usapan yung education sector at yung mahabang panahon ng pagkukulang ng ating pamahalaan po para mag-respond doon sa basic needs ng ating system. And I think yun yung kailangan nating bigyan ng focus po, yung basic needs.
Benjo, let me address the elephant in the room. Diretsuhin ko na, ang dami nagsasabi, bakit paligoy-ligoy pa tayo kung saan tayo tumitingin, trying to address or to correct the educational system through reforming the curriculum, where it's not the curriculum daw that is at fault, but rather the lack of teachers and infrastructure. In the first place, kung madami tayong teachers, they're properly paid and compensated, bigyan mo sila ng assistance to unload their work, wala tayong problema with the quality of teaching, wala tayong problema with the number of students that one can accommodate. And until now, our lawmakers are not looking into this issue, they're looking and blaming the curriculum.
Yeah, exactly. Yan po. That's precisely our point Ever since ang sinasabi ho namin doon po sa aming recent statement binanggit po namin yan para tayong sa curriculum lamang tumitingin na para bang ma-address ng curriculum ang problema, pero hindi po ang problema po natin, tignan natin yung ating class size, di ba? Tignan natin yung ating mga classrooms napakasikip, napakainit, di ba? Siksikan yung mga bata yung ating mga teacher, napakaliit ng sweldo, hindi nakakaagapay yung sweldo ng teacher doon sa economic needs niya, 'di ba? So kailangan niya gumawa pa ng ibang mga bagay na pagkakakitaan. Sobra yung ating mga teacher, sobra yung workload ng ating mga teacher. And the work goes beyond teaching, Ang dami pang mga administrative tasks po na ginagawa ng ating mga guro, Kulang yung ating mga classrooms, walang libro yung ating mga bata. Yung ating mga bata pumapasok ng walang laman ng tiyan. So these are the basic issues that should be addressed by the government po. Hindi yung pagpapalit ng curriculum. Sabi nga po namin, last point, sabi na nga po namin, dati pa man, nung inaayos pa lamang ang K-12 curriculum, kahit pa po umabot ito ng 13, 14, 15, or kahit pa K-20, kung hindi natin ina-address at hindi natin nire-resolve yung mga problema natin sa ating classrooms in particular ay hindi po talaga tayo susulong yung ating education, and this is very challenging mapanghamon itong bill ni Senator Estrada at kinakailangan po itong pag-usapan as I have mentioned po isang whole of society approach ang kinakailangan po para po natin ma-address yung problema ng ating mga paaralan at ng ating buong sistema ng edukasyon.
Well, time and again naman po, pag kayo ay nakakausap namin dito, yan talaga yung pinag-uusapan natin, yung discussion natin. But going back po doon sa wala po tayong magagawa, right now, currently we're facing na there's going to be a pilot run for the revised senior high school curriculum. On your point of view, okay ba ito na 5 basic subjects na lang sa mga estudyante and may freedom sila to choose their elective? Will this help them really prepare for their chosen career?
Well, dito po medyo titignan natin yung resulta ng pilot run po dito, di ba? Pero sa face value pag tinignan natin, medyo ito ay individual sa pagtingin ng isang individual na public school student, medyo makakaluwag ito sa kanya, di ba? Pero ang gusto po naming makita dito ay kung ito ba ay tumutugon doon sa pangkalahatang pangangailangan po ng ating sistema at ng ating mga mag-aaral. So siguro Miss Angela, sasagutin ko na lamang na at least at the very least ito ay medyo mas maganda kaysa doon sa existing. Pwede po natin na sabihin gano'n sa ngayon na hindi pa natin siya nakikita. Binibigyan po namin ng kumbaga benefit of the doubt itong DepEd program po as regards to this another change in our curriculum in senior high school po.
But I don't know if, go ahead.
Yeah, well, since we're talking about nga the problems hounding or education department, kasama na po dyan yung sa teachers din na subject mismatch, no? Na kaya po din nakikita natin yung mga surveys, yung mga hindi na ituturo ng maayos sa mga estudyante kasi hindi naman yun yung napag-aralan talaga ng mga guro na naituturo nila sa estudyante. On your part po, on your perspective, ano pa po ba mga trainings and workshop po ba dapat na pagdaanan ng mga teachers para po ma-address itong problema na ito?
Yeah, tama po yan. Unang-una, dapat hindi tayo mag-hire ng mga teacher para pagturuin ng mga subjects na hindi naman sila trained. Pero since marami na po yan, over the decades, tumambak na po yan, pwede naman talaga na magkaroon po ng retraining, magkaroon ng mga workshops na sinasabi po natin. In fact, may budget naman ng DepEd para dito, di ba? Para naman, lalo na, magkaiba po kasi yung approach sa elementary, di ba, na generalist. Sa elementary, halos lahat ay kayang ituro ng mga teacher natin. Sa high school po, sa secondary, lalo na sa junior high school, meron pong tinatawag po tayo na majorship, may specialization. Hindi pwedeng magturo ng Filipino, yung graduate ng English, di ba, o ng major ng English, unless nag-training siya ng substantial, di ba? Even yung science teachers, hindi pa pwedeng magturo yung chemistry major ng biology, di ba? Magkaiba na po yan. Pagdating sa senior high school, mas lalo pa. Di ba? Mas lalo pa dahil sobrang specialized po yung senior high school subjects po natin. Kaya kailangan po itong mismatch na ito ay i-address sa dalawang bagay. Una, doon pa lang sa entry, sa pagpasok pa lamang ng mga teacher. Pangalawa, ay makapagbigay ng totoo, ng honest to goodness na training. Na yung training po, na yung workshop po ay hindi natin makikita na namamasyal yung mga participants, na ginagastos na napakalaki, di ba? Pero mamamasyal lamang pala yung mga participants. Napakarami pong ganyan sa ating Department of Education, na in guise of trainings, junket naman pala. Yung ating mga, hindi naman po yan doon sa mga classroom teachers normally, sa mas matataas na posisyon. At yan ay binabanggit ko na ngayon, sapagkat na pag-uusapan din naman namin yan hanggang sa level ng central office. Pero kinakailangan po nating makita para yung pera natin na nakakaunti na binigay sa atin ng gobyerno na hindi sumunod doon sa constitutional mandate ay magamit natin ng medyo may efficiency. Yes, diba? But of course, another issue naman namin yan, Ma'am Angela, yung pagtalima doon sa constitutional mandate na dapat pinakamataas ang pondo ng education sector na hindi po sinunod for this year.
Benjo, I'd like to ask you about another problem na some people in the educational sector are talking about, meaning in disconnect between the central office or central schools from the autonomous schools. Pero very disconnected. Ang layo daw ng level of learning between these two institutions, autonomy, yung mga autonomous schools and central. Ang sinasabi nila kasi, current system evaluates schools merely on the pass rate. So, padamihan ng sino pumapasa. So, therefore, teachers daw tendency in one side tend to lower, yung may autonomy, tend to lower daw yung standards para madaming pumasa, para yung accreditation gumanda. May napapansin ka bang ganito, Benjo?
Let me clarify, sir. Schools po yan ng DepEd schools?
Both, both sides.
Tertiary?
Baka tertiary.
And tertiary,
Yeah. Medyo may respond na dito yung gobyerno po natin. Nagkaroon na po ito nung parang 2 months ago, nilagdaan po yung joint memorandum ng PRC, ng DepEd at saka ng CHED. Kasi importante rin naman talaga na isang tuhog po yan. Hindi pa pwedeng magkakahiwalay po yan. So mula doon sa test items na binibigay ng PRC, di ba? Dapat ito yung pinag-aralan niya doon sa kanyang tertiary under the CHED. At yun naman din kasi yung ituturo niya sa Department of Education. So sa tingin namin, medyo ina-address naman po ito. Although ngayon, syempre, magbabago ng kaunti ito sapagkat nagbago rin yung CHED chair. Magkakaroon na tayo ng bagong chairman no, sa CHED. No? But yung approach dapat talagang unified po.
Lastly, Benjo, no, sa tingin niyo po ba itong changes na to nitong revised CHS curriculum ay will improve significantly yung employment rates ng mga nagtapos ng CHS, or it's going to be the same, ano, kasi until ma-mandate yung mga employers na mag-hire ng mga senior high school graduates ay hindi natin magagawa yung ating goal.
Well, tama po yan. Ano? Medyo hindi pa rin natin to alam. No? Pero dito po kasi no, sa Tech Pro no, na track ng Department of Education, ano, medyo talagang tutok na ito. No? Tapos tumaas din no, yung ating oras no, nung immersion. No, para ito yung OJT di ba, na dati ay kakaunting oras lang. Pero mukhang kailangan nating i-address, kailangan nating i-review, di ba? Vis-a-vis doon sa existing no na policy on immersion, no, at dito sa gagawin ng DepEd. Anyway, sabi ko nga po, no, bibigyan po natin ng chance yung Department of Education po dito, di ba? At kami naman po ay willing naman po na mag-support, no, willing naman po kami na gawin yung ako po no bilang isang senior high school teacher myself po, no, ay willing naman po no na gawin yung aming makakaya no para po dito sa program na ito ng Department of Education, ano. Hindi tayo mag-wish ng ill no at dito sa program, no, sapagkat gusto po natin na mapakinabangan ng ating mga kabataan, no, but at the same time of course no we will demand and we demand no yung mas mataas na accountability po no ng ating public officials no ng ating Department of Education at ng Kongreso no tungkol po dito, especially in terms of budget, no? So sana no at makikita po natin to, Miss Angela, after nung 1 year pilot run, no, at doon natin siya lamang no maa-assess, no. Mahirap pa nating i-assess ngayon doon lamang sa papel no na nakasulat doon sa plano ng Department of Education. Pero sabi nga namin, binigit na rin naman namin earlier no na parang hindi masyado ito pong napaghandaan, no, yung even itong pilot implementation ay maraming mga teacher nga nagugulat no na may pilot implementation pala na hindi nila alam.
Well, we are one with you, diba? Sa hangarin na sana maging matagumpay itong revised CHS curriculum. Meantime, maraming salamat po sa inyong oras sa Teachers Dignity Coalition National Chairperson Benjo Basas.
Maraming salamat.
In other news, Philippine troops recently conducted a maritime patrol reaching Parola and Licas Islands, 2 of the 9 military outposts in the West Philippine Sea. The team bombarded BRP Andres Bonifacio, braving rough waves near Pag-asa Island. Parola Island lies beyond the 200 nautical miles EEZ but remains under Philippine control. The patrol then proceeded to Licas Island, a white sand paradise known as a sanctuary for giant sea turtles. Though far from the mainland, Licas is equipped with solar power, desalination systems, a basketball court, and a vegetable garden to help troops cope with their isolated duty.
Bawat feature natin dito sa West Philippine Sea, yung siyam na features na to, no, ay tinatauhan natin ng miyembro ng Sandatahang Lakas ng Pilipinas to assert our sovereignty.
They are highly trained. Yung attitude nila, they're well motivated, and of course they're properly sustained to man this island. May mga nasa pipeline for enhancing this patrol base. Nasa pipeline na natin yan to enhance, especially sa sustainment and habitability ng ating patrol base dito.
So I was trying to say the team boarded BRP Andres. Okay?
Okay. Don't go away because we're not done yet. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching News and Views here on One News.
President Bongbong Marcos has ordered the removal of the infamous Kamuning footbridge in Quezon City. The Department of Transportation announced plans to replace it with a more pedestrian-friendly bridge equipped with elevators. The bridge, known for its excessive height, has been criticized for being inaccessible and unsafe for pedestrians and commuters. The new structure will connect directly to the GMA Kamuning EDSA busway station. Construction is expected to begin next year.
Siquijor Province is now under a state of calamity due to daily power outages lasting up to 8 hours. Governor Jake Villa says the provincial government will take action to address the crisis. The blackouts have disrupted homes, businesses, and tourism on the island. Siquijor's power supply is managed by the Villar Group's SIPCOR.
Now, as the world marks Environment Day, global and local leaders converged in Makati to take a deeper dive into one of today's most pressing challenges, protecting our oceans. Mobile journalist Denise Valdesancho has the story.
Held on World Environment Day, this year's Blue Talk brought local and international voices together with a united goal to protect marine biodiversity. At a forum in Makati, officials, experts, and advocates came together for the 4th Blue Talk to tackle the urgent threats facing our oceans, as well as science-driven and inclusive solutions to battle these challenges.
And today's Blue Talk was dedicated once again to this issue of how to protect better the marine biodiversity, particularly marine protected areas, how they can be more efficient, how we can, and the Philippines can in the end, reach the 30 by 30 goal.
The 30 by 30 goal aims to conserve 30% of the Earth's land and ocean area as protected areas by 2030. As pointed out in the forum, hitting this target in the country requires more policies. It needs the community, data, innovation, and a deeper sense of collaboration.
I think the value of the 30 by 30 goal is, of course, it's really difficult to reach, and particularly when we look at the situation in the Philippines, the path and the way is still a long one, but it's useful as such as it sets a standard, and the important thing is the way there is a collective mobilization to achieve that.
Speakers underscored the need to support local governments, create solutions that fit local communities, and leverage partnerships for long-term conservation efforts. From marine biodiversity to maritime defense, France and the Philippines are charting a stronger, more united course towards protecting the oceans. Recently, both countries announced key developments, including the signing of a €250 million funding agreement for the Climate Change Action Program's second phase and France's support to maritime security through 40 new patrol boats to be delivered by shipbuilder Osea.
In many aspects, we have increased our partnership, and our advocacy at the international level is getting also stronger and stronger, and I hope that is also what we will see in about a few days from now in Nice on the occasion of the United Nations Conference on Oceans.
Mobile journalist Denise Valdesancho. We are One News.
All right, we would like to thank Buddha's Belly, Marjorie Tan, for our wonderful spread today. Friday kasi.
Yung kanina yung sa footbridge pala, Mount Kamuning yun tawag nila.
Mount Kamuning.
Hoy,
sobrang
anyway,
taas kasi.
Sobrang taas. Anyway, ika nga sabi ni Angel, thank you sa Buddha's Belly for the regular weekend fair. And because it's a weekend, I'd like
Binabati natin yung mga kapatid nating Muslim.
Oo, Edil
Adha.
Edil Adha, yun. And because it's a weekend, I'd like to leave everyone with a quote. Give your stress wings and let it fly away. Terry Guillemets. And that wraps up today's episode of News and Views.
Join us again on Monday. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
I'm Angelo Castro III. We are One News.
All sides, all the time.